Hello, and welcome. My name is Puppelup, and thank you for coming to watch my tutorials. This tutorial and the others like it will be focused on guiding you through various parts of the modding process for the program Honey Select, using the Blender Unity SB3 workflow. This particular tutorial will be focused on teaching you how to weight paint a fitted mesh to the Honey Select body. Mostly, this is the first one because I unfortunately have absolutely no chill. So I tend to do things without thinking. I'm rather impatient, so the point at which I was approached and asked to make this tutorial, I had already done the fitting, so I will be doing that tutorial with a different project. In any case, we have our fitted mesh here already. I've weight painted all the other parts of this particular outfit except for the jacket, which, I mean, you can see we're currently in pose mode, so we can actually move the bones. But if we move the arm, the glove goes with, the arm does not. That is because it is not yet weight painted. So, the first thing we want to do is figure out what base we want to take our weight paint from. In my case, I usually just use the Honey Select body, but a lot of individuals will suggest that you use a similar existing clothing item from the game. But for the purposes of our tutorial, we are going to use the Honey Select body, as that is my particular workflow. Now, transferring the initial weight paint is not terribly difficult. First things first is we want to make sure that our jacket has our Armature Deform modifier. Mine does, but I will still show you how to apply that. You would go to Add Modifier. Under the Deform list, the very first item is Armature Deform, and we want to make sure that the armature in question is the armature body. That would be the armature body up here. That is associated with our sample mesh body. This should all come as a template in Starlene's tutorial, which, while it is fantastic and helped me to learn everything I'm going to show you in this video, unfortunately, it's a little out of date when it comes to the Blender UI. So while it is still an absolutely fantastic resource, when it comes to finding some of the screens that are necessary when working with Blender, it's a little bit archaic and things aren't quite where they used to be. So, in any case, we've applied, rather, haven't applied. You do not apply the Armature Deform modifier, as that gets carried with the mesh when we go and port it out of this program. But we still have put our Armature Deform modifier into the modifiers attached to our jacket mesh. At this point, we want to make sure that we are in object mode and that we have the jacket, or whatever mesh you happen to be using, we want to make sure that it's selected in object mode. So then we're going to scroll up and we want to shift click the item that we want to take the weight paint from. In this case, it is the CF0 body 000. I tend to just click on armature body. It's my matter of habit. But then we will want to shift to weight paint mode. So for the most part, when we start up weight paint mode, this entire mesh is going to be blue. However, my display settings, down here where it says show overlays, here where it says 0 weights, instead of none, I select it to active. That way, any place where there is no weight paint at all for a particular bone, it shows as black as opposed to blue. This is very important for us, as sometimes if you're not paying attention and weight paint isn't zeroed out to a particular bone, you can have some really wonky effects. So I would just suggest using that overlay setting. In any case, back to transferring weight paint. We're going to click on the weights option, transfer weights. We want to make sure that our source layer selection is by name. That's super important as well. Otherwise, your program isn't going to be entirely sure where to source the transferred weight paint from. Vertex mapping is also important. You have a whole bunch of different options here. In my case, I find using nearest edge interpolated to be the most efficient method. I've been told this works out for me because I tend to use more low poly meshes as I source them from mobile games and MMOs. I just find it gives really good results, so that's what I'm going to suggest to do. But if you find an option under here that works better for you, go ahead and use it. There's no hard rules to this. So, in any case, we're going to now click outside of that screen, which will finish up that step. Now, we have weight paint on our jacket. We have a lot of weight paint on our jacket. Some which we really don't need. I don't think we need weight paint for the thumb on our jacket. Just doesn't seem kosher to me. So first things first, we are going to go ahead and use this little minus button here. I'm actually going to hide the gloves for now. That'll give us a bit of a better idea of what we're doing. I'm actually going to hide the armature itself too, and temporarily turn off our wireframe overlay, just so we are seeing just the weight paint. Another tip I use for weight painting is I use viewport shading. I use flat lighting. It makes the colors of the weight paint just a little bit easier to see. At least for me, that's how it is. So we are going to start any weight paint that doesn't seem right. I mean, a lot of this isn't quite right yet, but we're just going to delete a lot of this frankly unnecessary weight paint. So thumb, ring finger, middle finger, little finger, index finger. Wow, we have a lot of weight paint that just kind of did not work out entirely well for us, but that's okay. Part of this tutorial is also learning how to fix those kinds of mistakes. Cleaning up unused weight paint, in my opinion, is actually a more important step than I think a lot of people really understand. Mostly in that it actually will drop your file size that you end up with decently. You know, people don't realize how much of an effect on your file size unused vertex groups and unused data can really be. So we are just going to go through here and delete any unused weight paint. We do not need the lower leg, nor the toes, nor the feet. So notice it showed up, it's just not what we need. I actually find it kind of interesting because I've never seen this kind of effect before, but stuff happens. We work with it, we figure it out. In any case, that should be all of the vertex groups that we will not be using deleted. So we're going to, now that we have our quick and dirty weight paint transfer, we're going to pose the body in a couple places clicking on Armature Body and clicking Pose Mode. Just to test out the weight paint. It's not going to be perfect at first. Trust me. Weight paint never is. You will always need to do tweaks like that. That's probably not what we want. So, first things first, we know that this is the CFJ Arm Up 00L, and that is a lot of weight paint we don't need on the torso. So we're gonna go back to our jacket and just start cleaning up anything that doesn't make sense. We're gonna use our draw tool here, and we're gonna set the weight to 0. So the CFJ Arm Low, for instance, which happens to be what I settled on, that's actually going to be, if we go back to our armature, the arm low is the lower arm, so we're just gonna erase everything that is not, that's pretty much from here over. So as well, this may be a more difficult portion at first when you're learning. Eventually, you start getting a feel for the skeleton and things start becoming more and more natural for you as time goes on. It's just a matter of, in some cases, getting used to the tools that you have. It'll all work out in the end. So, yeah, and wrist. Definitely don't need all this weight paint over here on the torso. They do call it painting. It is an art, not an exact science. That is the elbow. I'm actually probably... I'm also probably one of the worst people to make a tutorial off the bat. Just because I'm slow. I'm terribly slow at working. Let's add a little weight to here. That's the actual elbow. So let's go back to pose mode and see. That's probably a little better. Alrighty, now that we've removed some of that unneeded weight paint, you can see the effect is so much better. We still have a little ways to go. So I'm going to keep that posed and let us return to our jacket. I'm actually going to hide our body mesh. Oop. Hide our body mesh and a couple of our other items. The collar, the blindfold, the shorts. Just so we can kind of see the nitty-gritty. I'm also going to turn back on our wireframe overlay. That way we can see a little bit more apparently where some of our weight paint problems are. So first things first is we are cleaning up our weight paint of all the unnecessary influences that have leaked into it. Gross. As you can see, now that we're starting to remove some of the weight paint in the collar region, it is actually going back to the shape it's meant to be in. Turning off the original body mesh was pretty important, because otherwise some of these vertices were just a little bit hidden. Okay, that's looking a lot better. It's going to be a great deal of that testing. Oop, I'm not moving that the correct way, nor do I believe that is the correct bone. Another thing you'll start to get used to is that there's actually two bones in a lot of the joints. One of them is for scaling that individual bone. The other one is actually for the joint movement. They are overlapping one another, so if you ever have an issue where you start posing a bone and it's the wrong thing, just Control-Z and click that bone again, and make sure that it's a different name here up in the user orthographic. So yeah, we need to remove more of this influence until our mesh just fits a little nicer. I'm actually going to turn the body back on, but I am also going to go down here when it comes to viewport display. Okay, there we go. Show, and I'm gonna say we should just show the display as wire. That way we can actually see what we're doing through the mesh. Back to our jacket, and back to our bones. As you can see, now we have a lot less clipping in this region. I wonder why. It's definitely not from all the removing some of the nastier weight paint. Yes, I know. Our model's upside down. It happens. Aha! We have more weight paint on the inside. You're probably not going to end up with the internal weight paint issues like I have here, mostly because if you notice, even on the edges of the wrists here, my mesh is kind of solidified at the end. This is just a matter of the assets that I'm using. Most assets will not be like this. In order to get inside the body, I'm going to change my perspective. Unfortunately, perspective and working in it, I don't usually do. Yeah, let's just zero out all this weight paint on this in here. And it looks, based on the way that it's deformed, like there is a couple things. So, yeah, you don't want to be on the hand. I'm actually going to use... it's kind of nice as you can scroll through these using your arrows, but only when your mouse is hovered over this list. So yeah, let's get rid of... That's supposed to be on the elbow anyway, so let's actually get outside of the body, and just like we did for the other side, let's erase this white paint here. We'll just add new weight paint for our elbow and back. Around an influence of 2 is okay for this. Well, as we pose and we test, we can always change things. Back to our arrow keys. And that's for the wrist, so we're going to set it to 0 again. And continue to clean. Alrighty. Seeing as I have a few unexpected issues with this particular mesh, which they happen. Sometimes it'll just take a little bit more work for you to get your mesh to behave the way that you want it to. But I'm going to pause recording for a moment and jump back in when I'm a little further down, seeing as I think you guys get the idea of what I mean when it comes to cleaning up weight paints and make sure that they are indeed centralized around the bone that they're meant to be. So, from your perspective, this will jump forward. From my perspective, I'm going to check in with you again later, guys.